Today, I want to talk about a very important topic, and that's developing a capital campaign. Schools and parishes across the country are constantly looking for ways to gain additional financial resources. They look at their needs and quickly realize that their normal operating budgets won't support the cost of these major items. Now, those major items could be anything from new technology within the building, new security systems, additional classrooms, additional worship space, so many different things. So, in order to gain additional financial resources, you need to realistically conduct a capital campaign. And today we're going to talk about the key elements in a capital campaign. Now, in phase one, you start asking the question, well, how do I start the process? How do I start the process? Well, once you start asking that question, as you see on the screen, the clock starts ticking. You start thinking about what you need and when you're going to need it. What's the time frame? That's when you start the process. Now, in order to start the process realistically, you have to look at two things: the vision for your school or parish and its mission. Everything that you do should focus around the mission. The vision is what will project you into the future. How do you make that mission become a reality? What is your vision of what your school or parish can and should be? It starts there. You then take that and develop a strategic plan, clearly identifying your needs, the costs, and the time frame, and how every action that you take is tied directly back to your mission and your vision. The next thing you do is start talking about the statement of support. The statement of support is basically answering this question: what problem is being solved? What have you identified is the problem that you're going to need this additional funding? You need to answer the following questions. Who are you as a school, as a parish? What are you planning to do? Why do you need this project to begin with? And why is it critical now? What is the impact of this new project? How much will it cost? And why do you need my help? Because all of it goes back to answering this question: what problem is being solved? Now, the case for support must articulate the rationale for your fundraising project. It tells people who you are, where you've been, where you're going, and why this new project is so essential to your school or parish. The case statement initiates a sense of ownership among the participants. It basically tells people that this is why it's important. And as you see on the screen there, you might suddenly think this is such a great idea and you're headed in one direction. Well, I hate to say it, but everybody else is headed in the other. So your case statement tells people why they should turn around and follow you and join this important effort that you have. We now move on to phase two. In developing a capital campaign, you now have the idea what needs to be done, how much it costs. Phase two is all about making that become a reality. Once the decision to proceed is made, the hard work really begins. Sort of like this man staring at this tunnel. The tunnel just didn't suddenly, miraculously come into being. It took a lot of hard work and planning. That same thing must happen when you're doing a capital campaign. First thing you need to do is determine your campaign leadership. Who are those people that you will identify as the key to making your campaign successful? When you're determining the campaign leadership, you're trying to secure volunteers who will be critical to the success of your project. These leaders, and they must be leaders, must represent every segment of the constituency that you have. They must be individuals who are strategically selected and personally recruited. This is not something that you do by sending someone an email or a letter saying, I'd like you to join our committee. No, this is done by personally communicating with individuals who you have identified as essential to making your campaign a success. This leadership team, they have certain responsibilities. First of all, they need to have a genuine interest in the parish or the school, its mission and the campaign. They must be all in. They must be willing to personally endorse the campaign and perhaps even host a cultivation function. Now, a cultivation function is simply a gathering where you're not asking people for money, you're telling the story. You, as the head of the institution, you're telling the story of where you've been, your vision for the future, and how this particular project that you want to undertake will help you serve the constituencies that you work with every day. And it'll help you in carrying out your mission. These campaign leaders must be willing to make a financial commitment. They have to show others that they're willing to put their money into this project, not just talk about the project. Oftentimes, the campaign leadership team helps open doors with potential prospects. Sometimes that's necessary, other times it's not. Now, prospect evaluation is important because, again, you've got the idea, but how do you get people to buy in? And how do you know which people you should be cultivating? Potential donors, who are they and where are they? Now, if you're in a parish, you might have just the registered parishioners. But what about those past parishioners who maybe have moved to different parts of the country but still believe in what you're doing and were very active? This is especially important for those who have retired to other areas in the country. You'd be surprised at how many are willing to support what you're doing. So you need to find out who are those people, who are the potential donors, where are they? Now, when we talk about prospect evaluations, you look at a lot of different things. You look at past giving histories. You look at past parishioners. You look at in a school, you look at alumni, friends, people in the local community. You start looking at everyone and anybody who might be interested in seeing this particular project come to fruition. You're looking for people who support your mission and your vision. Now, donor cultivation is really important. And this should be an ongoing process for any leader in an organization. This is a component of major gift solicitation, and it's a key factor in the success of a capital campaign. Based upon the parish or the school's relationship with the prospect, where the prospect is on the cultivation cycle, you need to develop a strategy. You can't simply say, well, I know this person is very wealthy, and so I'm going to ask them for $1 million. Well, have you talked to them? What's your relationship with them? Well, I don't really know them. I just know that they're wealthy and they own all these businesses. Again, I'd ask the question, what's your relationship? Why should they suddenly give to you when there are lots of other organizations who are also asking them for money? You need to develop relationships. When you're talking about fundraising, advancement, development, it's about relationships. Relationships and the trust that your potential donors have in you as a leader and in your school or parish is critical. Now, in donor solicitation, this is where you're actually going out to people. There's a quiet phase and a public phase. The quiet phase is when you've identified the top potential major donors and you meet individually with them. You sit down and talk to them about what you're trying to do, why their involvement is so critical to the success of your parish or school. That quiet phase, you don't make a big deal about it. You're going to individuals, key individuals, and asking them to support it. In the public phase, that's when you're going out to everyone. Now, that might mean that you have large group settings where you have 25, 50 people come to a session where you explain what you're trying to do. You get people excited about it. You're the coach. You're trying to get people to be excited about what you're doing and how you're going to be able to really have an impact on people's lives. That's what it's all about. Now, this quiet phase, we're talking about individual meetings with potential major donors, perhaps. But you most importantly have to know your donors. Small group solicitations, meetings, again, 10, 20 people. They can be up to 50. If you get above 50, you lose a lot of the personal contact. And you might have one or two of those a month. Maybe you'll have one a week for a period of 8 weeks until everybody that's on your donor list has had a chance to hear what you've been doing. Now, this is what we're trying to do. And in this public phase, you're also talking about personalized letter. We all get letters asking for our support. Dear sir, dear ma'am, we would like your support. Dear friend of. The way I look at that is if they can't personalize a letter, then they probably don't know who I am. And as a result, they probably don't need my money. So one of the things that I've always done is personalized letters. Dear Bill and Sally, dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's what we're trying to do. Again, that comes from the head, the pastor perhaps, or the head of the school. You also send personalized letters to all people who haven't given, but they're still part of your community. You also have to try to personalize the campaign brochures and the return envelope so that people feel that you really want their input, that you really need them, and that most importantly, you know who they are. Capital campaigns can be daunting. It's kind of like the picture you see in front of you. Tall buildings, bright lights. It can be daunting, but if you look in that photograph and you see that rising sun, the hope of this new tomorrow, that's what developing a capital campaign is all about. If you'd like more information on developing a capital campaign for your school, or church, or other nonprofits, please feel free to contact me, and I would love to talk to you. Thank you for listening.